Hello, we're Stephen and Jason from the Climate Society, and today we're thrilled to have a special guest with us, a delegate from UBC who recently attended COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan.
Okay, thank you for joining us today. Pleasure to have you here. We're excited to hear the insights and experiences that you've gotten from COP29. So could you kick it off with a little bit of an introduction?
Yeah, thank you so much both for your introduction, and it's my pleasure to meet you guys. And so my name is Chunyu Pan. I'm currently a PhD candidate at University of British Columbia. So my research topics include global carbon market mechanism, carbon offsetting mechanisms, and the special role of forestry in the carbon offsetting in the carbon market. So that's why I attended 2 times at the COP28 and COP29. So I recently attended COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan last November, and it's been a very special experience for me because the topics related to COP29 was so connected to my own research, especially the Paris Agreement Article 6 mechanism. So that's why I was so excited attending COP29.
Yeah, thank you. Could you share a brief overview of your role at COP29?
Yes, so basically I was the main person that in charge of organizing a UN side event at COP29, which was entitled the Advancing the Quality and Integrity of Forestry-Based Nature-Based Solution to Climate Change. And we had 6 organizers in total. UBC was the lead organizer, I think for the first time, leading the official UN side event for the first time. And we had 5 other co-organizers, including the American Forest Foundation, AFM from the US, and Balance Eco Foundation from the UK. And we also had the Forest Stewardship Council, FSC, that I think everybody should be so familiar with. And we have the University of Laval from Quebec, as well as the Zhejiang A&F University. So we had such diverse organizers from the world, over the world, and we touched on a lot of topics, including how do we advance the real additional and the quality and high quality and high integrity forestry-based nature-based solution, which is those especially those carbon projects based on forestry, and to deliver real climate benefit, and as well as reach that integrity, including the environmental and local social livelihood co-benefits. And we touch on those topics, and as well as those topics related to the climate negotiations from COP29. So it was a big successful side event that we organized, even though it was from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. That was pretty late for COP attendance, but we still got a lot of audience in the crowd. So that was pretty successful. And as for myself, I was sort of a lead person that in charge of organizing everything of this event, and including the before the event, prior to the event, I was in charge of contacting the organizers, contacting the secretariat, and for the event at COP29, I was in charge of the logistics, and after the event, I was in charge of the promotion and sort of a summary of this event and put it into the news. So apart from this, I attended a lot of climate negotiations within the COP29, especially those topics related to the Paris Article 6 mechanisms and the Green Climate Fund, and as well as the most important part of the COP29 was the climate funding, so the carbon finance. So yeah, that's pretty much of my experience.
Yeah, very cool. How does COP29 kind of compare to your past climate conferences and events that you've been attending to?
Yeah, so COP29 was my second time. COP28 was my first time as a newbie. But I would say, in terms of the scale, COP28 was the largest COP in the history. I think it reached over 80,000 delegates. For COP29, I think it dropped a little bit to 60,000 around. I think for last year was really about they've been discussing the role of phasing out from the fossil fuels and delivered the UAE consensus, including a lot of topics. But I think last year there were a lot of delegates that was especially those delegates not not only for the conference as a purpose, but also they think that Dubai was so attractive as in terms of tourism, and they got a chance to travel after COVID, and a lot of them were there, and so that's why last year we reached to that level that was so high in the history. But still, this year was packed within a Baku stadium. That large amount of audience within that small venue. But I think in terms of climate negotiation topics, there are many differences. Especially last year, for the Paris Agreement Article 6 negotiation, there were no outcomes last year. And in terms of the climate finance, there were literally not so many outcomes, but this year they put that two topics into the priority. As for the climate finance, people call COP29 as a finance COP. So they put that climate finance into the top priority to discuss. So from the day one, I think the developing countries have already put the figure, the 1.3 trillion US dollars per year from developed countries to developing countries as a climate finance. That figure, I think that was from day one, and they've been discussing this figure for the whole conference, and there were hopes during the conference that they could reach that target, but they've been zigzagging around the sentences, the wording of that decision, and from my own perspectives of the last decision, they changed the wording to call from all actors, from both public and private finance sources to try to reach 1.3 trillion per year, but not that definite. But they've been sure that they will ask the developed countries to provide 300 billion per year to the developing countries. That was a major breakthrough from the previous one, from the Copenhagen, I think, around 2010. That agreement was reached that the developed countries should give 100 billion US dollar per year to the developing countries. So that was increase from 100 to 300. I think in terms of the scale, again, we've got a much smaller green zone compared to last year, and it seems like everybody was in the blue zone this year. So that's why everybody was packing to the blue zone, including pavilion zones. That includes all the country pavilions, like Canadian Pavilion, China Pavilion, and also from the major NGOs. They also set up their pavilions. And this year we've got a forest pavilion under the SDG. That was the first time, and they cover a lot of topics, that was related to the forestry practice into the climate change mitigation. So I think that's the major things I can think of in terms of difference between the two COPs.
That's very interesting. Thank you. And at COP29, what do you think was the biggest breakthrough that was achieved there?
I sort of touched on those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one was definitely the climate finance. So they reached the 300 billion target per year, but they've put that 1.3 trillion figure on the table. So they put that figure on the table. So that's a start. I mean, in the future COPs, there could be possibility that future COPs, maybe like in Brazil next time in COP30, or maybe COP32 or something, they could potentially reach that figure, 1.3 trillion. But I don't think that would happen in the short time because under the new U.S. presidential election, President Trump administration is selected, and apparently Trump is against climate change mitigation course. So if U.S. Quit from the Paris Agreement again, I think that would be very hard for the global community to continue on the course of doing this very, very important work of mitigation of climate change. Another thing as what I was mentioning was the Paris Agreement Article 6 mechanisms, which was very important for the countries to meet their NDC targets. So NDC is nationally determined contributions. So Paris Article 6 was the last piece of puzzle of Paris Agreement that was not resolved or not addressed for a long time. So they've been discussing this for several COPs. So until this time, COP29, they've put that into the priority list, and during the first day of COP, they passed the very, very, very first step of that agreement on the decision. So that was on the guidance of Paris Article 6. I cannot remember the full name, but they've been gradually discussing this throughout the conference, and so after the last day, I think they put up the final negotiation note or text that they've passed the Paris Article 6.2, 6.4, 6.8. So in case you're not familiar with these mechanisms, 6.2 refers to the bilateral between two countries or multiple countries, or multilateral collaborations between countries. So for example, one country develop a climate mitigation project, for example, based on forestry, they put into the afforestation efforts into the within that country, and they could reach the additional climate benefit from that afforestation project, and other country can purchase those mitigation outcomes from that country. So this is the sort of a bilateral collaboration between countries. So Paris Article 6.2 allows this sort of a collaboration in order to meet, for example, U.S. Climate NDC, and the U.S. would purchase that mitigation outcomes from other developing countries. And as for the 6.4, refers to the global carbon market. It will establish a centralized platform that will be supervised by the supervisory body from the UNFCCC. And so essentially, it will develop a platform that will list all the available methodologies for developing those mitigation projects, and it will serve as a central platform to approve, to validate, to verify, and to issue the credits, to issue the mitigation outcomes. And all the countries from all over the world can purchase the credits in that platform. So I think this year in 2024, they would emphasize this very special Paris Article 6.4, and they will put on their most of the efforts into this, and I think they will develop this platform within this year, hopefully. And as for 6.8, that would refer to more of a non-market approach. More of I would perceive that based on a voluntary purpose. So developed countries would voluntarily provide capacity, human capacity, capital capacity to the developing countries in order for them to develop mitigation projects, for example, afforestation projects that would usually lack of money, lack of finance to do that, but under 6.8, developed country will provide the finance to that project. So basically, that's those very important negotiation outcomes from this COP29.
Yeah, so with these breakthroughs and uncertainties and all these new climate policies, how do you think it'll affect Canada?
For Canada, I would say that Canada, as one of the developed countries, has its role in providing finance to the developing country, has a role in in leading the climate mitigation course. So as for Canada, I would say is more about the providing the support from money, from human capacity, from technical support, to those developing countries. I would say that Canada needs to provide, make its commitment from this $300 billion target, and raise its commitment as high as possible. And apart from that, provide the technical support to the developing countries and provide the advanced technology, from knowledge from the scientific community to the developing country that is, especially those countries suffer from hunger, suffer from climate change impacts, and Canada as a developed country really has to show its commitment, show its role into this very important climate finance, climate support, from technology, from knowledge, from the human capacity. And as for the Paris Agreement Article 6, I would say Canada as a developed country has the opportunity to purchase the mitigation outcomes from 6.2 bilateral agreements, or from 6.4 they can purchase the mitigation outcomes from the centralized platform from the UNFCCC. So that provides a special avenue for Canada for meeting their climate targets under its NDC. So that means Canada can, sort of easier for Canada to reach their climate targets under this Paris Article 6. But we really need to make sure that those mitigation outcomes are real, high quality, and it means that it really mitigates and really removes the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, not those carbon cowboys or ghost credits that is just greenwashing. So we really need to make sure that this 6.4 really works.
Yeah, I think you touched on it a little bit, but based on these commitments to with Canada and also the rest of the world, what do you think will be the biggest challenges in reaching these goals to make sure that everything that everyone wants is achieved?
I think the biggest one is the upcoming Trump administration. Every day from the COP, I think from it's been a long time. Every day at 6 p.m. in the COP, so there's a fossil fuel award, that announcement for the countries that that's been doing very bad in mitigating climate change, in doing the climate change mitigation or adaptation efforts. And I think during the last few days, we witnessed that the U.S. was awarded for the fossil fuel award. So that means that the U.S. is gonna withdraw from Paris Agreement again in the coming year. Although that Paris Agreement withdrawal would require at least 1 year, sort of a consideration period. So that means Trump will withdraw from the first day of his in office, and that would take 1 year. After that, that would be, I think, around 2026 January or something. But still, Trump is so strongly against climate change. This concept he thinks is fake, and under his administration, under his leadership, I think the U.S. will have a very reduced role in providing the finance in reducing their carbon dioxide emission from its own country, and it will even provide it will even emit more emissions from its own country. So I'll say that under his leadership, it will be very hard for the global community to reach sort of a major breakthroughs again. Although we do have hope, because certain states from the U.S., for example, California, Oregon, and Washington, and some states from the northeastern parts of the U.S., they still have very strong climate mitigation efforts, even though Trump is elected. As we know, that California was the sort of a pioneer state that was already set up the cap and trade program. That was I think from 2010 or something. That was really early, and so these states are very into the carbon market. And the very essential role of carbon market is that the state government or the provincial government will have the clear emission reduction path on the road. So from my perspective is that carbon market, or the ETS, emission trading market, or the carbon cap and trade program that can effectively reduce carbon dioxide emission, and will provide incentives for participating companies to do the internal transformation from fossil fuel emissions to the clean energy. So I would say those states have really done its job, and I think we still have hope, but it's not so optimistic. But we will do our part as a PhD student, PhD candidates here, and we will do our part to try to optimize the role of forestry into the climate change mitigation efforts. And I think everybody can do their part. So that's something we can do, right?
Yeah. So on the topic again of the policies that came from COP29, if you could advise the policymakers and kind of negotiators of COP29 on one key action before COP30, what do you think it would be?
In terms of advice, is that I think personally, definitely the climate finance is definitely the most important part. Without finance, we can do nothing. Right? Imagine that those developing countries, they are struggle with hunger, with their own state of development, and so without finance, they have very little finance available from their own country to do this work, and it's very unfair for them. They haven't developed yet. The developed countries already developed during the last century, and they already emit a lot of carbon into the atmosphere. So that's why so the developed country has the responsibility to do this, and it's very unfair for the developing countries when they put that figure, 1.3 trillion figure, on the table, and they've been advising this for so long, and it's been scientifically backed. This figure we need this figure to reach the Paris Agreement within the 2050 or 22nd century. So this figure was scientifically backed by the OECD. So it's very unfair for the developing countries, and when the developed country are really hesitant on putting their efforts on providing the finance to reach that figure, and they've put the wording, they've adjusted the wording of that text to call on the efforts from all the actors on the world, which includes the sort of the developing countries, including China, including India, implying that they should also provide the finance to the developing countries. I think this is really unfair. So I would advise that the developed countries should do whatever they can to reach that target before the Trump administration withdraw from the Paris Agreement.
Yeah, thank you. And for our final question, how do you plan to take and apply the insights you gained from COP29 in your broader work and in the future as well?
Yeah. So I've already written a draft as a commentary paper of my sort of combining my own study and the insights from COP29. That was about that commentary was entitled "Avoiding Overcrediting Problems in the Forestry Carbon Offsets," because overcrediting was really an issue from the past years, and was really a point of criticism from the public, from the academia, from the public sectors. So the reason why I do this is because the Paris Article 6.4 was really gonna hit the ground in the short term, and we really need to make sure that the forestry-based carbon credits are real and additional and verifiable, and it's doing its work, and it's gonna deliver the real climate benefit, not the ghost benefit. So not the ghost credits. So so that's why I put out that paper, the state of the problem, the overcrediting of forestry-based carbon credits, and how can we effectively avoid the overcrediting problems within the carbon credits from the forestry-based solutions. That is really important for the not only the upcoming 6.4, but also the general voluntary carbon market, as well as the regulatory market in the world. So yeah, and after that, I would apply my learnings from COP29, both COP29, COP28, and probably the next COP30 into my doctoral thesis, and especially in the introduction part, and as well as the implication part. So I think that will provide a strong, solid, world, implications, or sort of a global implications for the policymakers and decision makers, all over the world, and that would ultimately benefit our climate change mitigation.
Well, thank you so much for answering all their questions. That's all the questions that we had today.
Okay.
And thank you for joining us today. And best of luck with all your future work.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.